Good morning, GMs and DMs. I hope everybody's having a great morning so far. Sorry, I had to move things around and adjust a little. I want to give a shout out this morning, and I had to run from watching the program because I got a little one and got to be dad. But I've got a quiet moment while she's watching Little Einsteins, and I I want to really hit something that I think is a very important thing. That first of all, I'm going to give the shout out to Evil Squeegee. Great podcast this morning, my friend. I just love how you do things, and to Sarah P. and to also to Tech Yumi. They're a great bunch of players. If you haven't watched them on Twitch, look up Evil Squeegee or the Carpe DM. They're a great bunch of adventurers. Love watching them and their adventures and misadventures. But one of the things he hit this morning, which is going to be the topic of my discussion, is the mechanics of designing a great campaign for your players. And I think one of the things he hit very well with the rule of thumb, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to give props to Squeegee for that. He did a great job of defining it out. I couldn't have possibly defined it better than he did. It's called the FITE principle: fun, interesting, tactical encounters. And the fight rule you're going to use to help in your campaign, along with another rule called GOKA. And GOKA is goal, obstacle, character, and attempt. And I think these, as I said, he summed it up so well. I don't think there could be a better way of designing out what he was talking about. When you design a campaign, or say a single standalone adventure, use the principle of goal, number 1, obstacle, number 2, character, number 3, and attempt, number 4. Number 1, a goal. A goal is something that you as the GM pose to the party. And this can be something as simple as saving the maiden from the evil dragon's lair. Okay? So that's the goal of the party. You play it up to where they have an interest in, oh my gosh, I must save that damsel from the dragon in the dragon's lair. Okay, so goal. Goal is something that really, guys and ladies, you really need to think about. Because the goal should want to draw your party in. And I'm not talking about the characters, I'm talking about the players. It should be something that really sparks interest out of the different party members in the party. And so when you design your goal, take a thought moment and really think about your players. If they're a new party and you don't know them, then you have to kind of go general. But if you know your party and it's a long-time party, you know what's important to them as players. You know what they like, what they don't like, and you can really design out a goal that draws every single one. So for my party, for example, I've got a great Pathfinder group. I've got a guy who loves to be able to use his skills and different things that he does, and that's Max. Max either plays a great cleric or a great rogue, and he's really gotten to be a great rogue. So he loves something that has a draw for his rogue, that he can either mess up somebody's plans or foil their plans by little tricks he pulls out of his wazoo. You got Josh. Josh is my guy that loves to role play. He loves to come out of himself and really use his character's goals as his thing to really motivate him as a player. I've got my Superman, Scott. He always wants to be the Superman. Whether it's with a war priest or some sort of fighting type, he wants to be the hero of the day. Paul does a great job with the clerics. He is the guy that wants to make sure the party survives and keeps alive and thrives and gets experience and contentment from that. Or also he loves to be the meat shield. He loves to pull up the guy in front of him and use him as a meat shield to get beaten up. So he's got a kind of a dual role. And then there's Brian. Brian's my thinker. He sits there and he thinks things out, and he loves to be Mr. Thought Intense. And then there's my son John, who is just kill it, kill it, kill it, and kill it violently and bloody. So I have to think about a goal that's going to pull all of them in and keep them pulled into the story. So a goal, like I say, look at something the party needs to accomplish in order to fulfill the enjoyment of the game. Then there's the obstacle. And I love Squeegee. I'm not going to use his word on it, but basically it's the block that keeps all those lovely adventures from getting there. It could be the drawbridge in front of them. It could be a certain type of a monster. It could be a river or a big obstacle in front of them that they have to surmountably pass in order to get to the goal. Love that. So that's what you as the GM design. The character and the attempt come 100% from your party. The character, that's what their character would do. If they were to put themselves in the role of their character, what would they do to get past number 2 to get to number 1, which is the obstacle to get to the goal? So a lot of that comes out of what they're going to do as their character to do that. And you have no clue as a GM, nor do you want to control them. And that was a great point Squeegee made this morning, was that don't try to control their actions. And so many of us as GMs and DMs make that mistake because our players frustrate us, because they do something we don't plan. Guess what? Get used to it. That's what being in a party of people, GMing them, is all about. You got to let them be them, and they're going to do it. And then their attempt. What are they going to attempt to do it? And most times, folks, it's going to be way outside of the bounds of anything you can plan for. But you know what? Take the most obvious answers and plan for them. That's another thing that Squeegee put. All you can do as a DM is plan for what are they going to do. What could they possibly do? They're going to find something you didn't plan for. That's normal, and that's always going to be normal. And it's okay. That's the great part of the story. See, as a GM, you got to get into the vibe of, I love when the party does some stuff that just spins my head and makes me think on my feet of what am I going to do? They just foiled everything. And I'll give you a perfect for instance. Max, my player, love him to death in the campaign with the Carrying Crown. The party is trying to get to the Wren Church. That is their goal. And they're trying to do these things. He latches on to the side goal that Dr. Lowe, the evil Chinese triad leader in his mind that I put in there, is trying to foil the party. So he goes and he puts a kind of a poison that makes people sick in the food, but doesn't kill them, in Dr. Lowe's establishment to take down Dr. Lowe. And foil his business. Had nothing to do with the overall story. But I had to reward him immensely. And we spent maybe 30 minutes of party time on Max poisoning Dr. Lowe. But everybody was laughing and into it because they love to see Max just go out of his way to just be random with some of these things. Because the Max that we started playing with wasn't this way initially. But he has become kind of the humor relief as well as the unique idea thinking outside the box with his rogues. And I just encourage him to death because it makes a funny story that we can tell. Everyone else in Carrying Crown's talking about how they ran to the Wren Church. We talk about how we took the jaunt to Dr. Lowe's to poison Dr. Lowe's people, blame it on one of his right-hand guys, and then, oh, by the way, then sneak away from the city. Got to love those moments. That's epic roleplay right there. So think about that. Another thing that Squeegee put, and this is something I'm going to put my spin a little bit on, Squeegee, so sorry about that to you, but you did a great job with it. He talked about the scale of a campaign, or scale of a game, and that's something you got to think about as a GM. What is the scale, and how does it work? You start from the top and work your way down. So, the campaign is at the base, and it's an inverted pyramid. Follow me with this. The big base is the campaign. It's the large base of what you're trying to do. Underneath that's the adventures, and then underneath that is the encounters. And so when you're designing you got to remember, a campaign is just a series of adventures or adventure paths put together to flesh out an overall world. And what it does is it answers the dramatic question that you're trying to throw to the players, which goes back to the goals and the obstacles overall. So maybe the goal is, and I'll throw this out there, to stop the evil Lich King from trying to turn the whole world to undead. So that's the goal of your campaign. The adventures then answer the questions of how are you going to do this. And so the adventures are a series of events that are going to take you to that goal. And then from there are the individual encounters and what they bring experience-wise for the players, item-wise, answers to the questions of how do I defeat the Lich King and what is his goals. What is his real nefarious plot that I'm trying to figure out? And see, you as the GM write those things, but the outcome comes to the second two things, which are character and attempt. They're going to go their own direction, the party, to accomplish this. And it's okay if they do. You're doing your job as a GM. Your GM is not to rigidly place them in a box, but to open the top of the box and let them go outside of it. I'll tell you what, I'd made some mistakes in my Carrion Crown campaign because I felt like one player was always defeating my encounters really easily. So I made them tougher, which made it harder on the party. I'm going to say this as a GM, as part of the things that I think in designing. Don't design things so difficult to meet one player and his character that all the rest of the other players have a hard time enjoying the game. At the end of the day, if the guy who's got the power gaming in them is going to be the one that is going to defeat your goals and obstacles, then put some unique ways that this guy has to solve it, that combat isn't always the answer, that combat actually detracts from the XP. And see, these are the things that when you design these things, you can design it to have a little bit of everything in there. That way you meet all the different characters, type of interests. I think in the beginning, a good question to always ask your party is what kind of adventure do they want to do? And get a good feeling of the type of adventure they want to do, because it's going to help you with your goals and obstacles. Ask that question. Hey guys, what do you want to do this time for a campaign? And really get their feeling, or at least poll them ever so often to make sure what you're doing is meeting their overall desires and interests. Then from there, flesh it out. Even if you don't have a path or things to do, make a compelling story, and that story is going to come from thinking about what the players are wanting to do as a whole when they talk with you. And then from there, you can do the goals and obstacles for the campaign, for the adventures, and for the encounters. And I would design it that way down. I think it's important to overall flesh out your campaign. And you are, and a great way of thinking of this, and it was, again, put in the podcast this morning. So, again, I'm stealing some of Squeegee's stuff, but I'm giving him credit on it because I really love his stuff. One of the things he said, a GM's role is to flesh out the ideas behind that. So you're going to do the story using goals and obstacles. And then as NPCs and as monsters, you are just the supporting cast. It is the players who write the story. Never forget that as a GM. It's not your story. It's everyone's story. And that's the thing you got to remember when you design these things and when you run these sessions. It is about everybody's story. You don't want to make it too easy for them. But at the same time, you want to reward and award for thinking outside the box, for really being involved in writing that story. You want your players to keep involvement by the way you laugh and award them, reward them, and give them props. Make sure you're doing lots of that, because so often as DMs and GMs, we're worried about the mechanics and making sure we're running it right. You're running it right when your players love the story. They can't get enough. They can't wait to the next session. They're emailing you outside the session, and they're chatting with you outside the session to prepare for the next week. That's the stuff. And you know what? If you're feeling they're losing that, then send them an email during the week in between and recap a little bit. Hey guys, from the last session, you remember, boom, and highlight some of the things they do. And I think that's the key thing. I think you guys have got to make sure you do that. And I know I do too as a GM. I think we need to make sure we're playing up what they're doing and what they bring to the whole campaign. And I think, with designing it out, look at the locales that you design for them. Is it going to be a horror-based campaign? So let's pick D&D 5 and the Strahd storyline with all the new Strahd stuff coming out. I used to love the Strahd storyline. So maybe you plot in there some of the obstacles, insanity, and other little effects that make it just enriched. So by seeing a certain monster, I love this because I got to see this with Tech Yumi, Squeegee, and Sarah P. I think Carpe was running that one with Cthulhu. And the fact of watching the party fail their roles for sanity. One character wanted to eat his fellow players. It was hilarious. He didn't do it, but it was just freaking hilarious to watch everybody respond to the insanity factor. Insanity is a great thing to use and design as an obstacle in a campaign. Maybe it's something like you gotta stop all the players from I lost my thought. Sorry. You get where I'm going with this. When you design something, figure out, do you want it to be horror? Maybe you want it to be a mummy, so you put it in the desert. Maybe you want it to be the slavers, stopping the slaver bands in the deserts. Or maybe it's finding an ancient ruin of a city or a sky city. Or in this case for the sci-fi people, maybe it's putting it into a place that is really unique for the players. Sorry about that. I had to change the show for the little one. So maybe it's designing in something that's a waterborne campaign. So say you want to do a water world for your sci-fi people, or you want to do an end-of-the-world apocalypse, but do something a little different than zombies. I love zombies, but it gets old after a while. So maybe it's something else. It's a world dying out that you're trying to save. See, this transcends the system. It is about the story, and you want to do a compelling story that your players will be interested in, that's going to have goals and obstacles they have to overcome to reach those goals, and it's going to allow their characters to really attempt to do some amazing things that will write the story. So pick out a great location and a great area that you think they want to do, and mix it up. Don't always do the same old, same old. People get bored with that. And also, think about your main baddies. You want to design your baddies to be something that will really enhance the goals and obstacles. So maybe it's an evil drow priestess of Loth. Maybe it is an evil mad scientist trying to make bombs to blow up the world, or mutate the world into a new type of organism or creature. Or it's possibly you're trying to save a priest of Sarenrae who is caught, or a priest of or a paladin of Bahamut. Shout out to Matt Mercer and his bunch. That you're trying to save from the evil Illithids and Duergar who are trying to suck her brain away and torture her. See, these are all things that make for a great storyline that'll have that goal and the obstacles built in, that you're going to really design out to make that fun and enriching for your player. I'm a fan of one of the things Squeegee brought up, and that is really having maps, terrain, draw things out, really make it vivid and real for your characters when they come to the encounters. Really try to draw them in visually, because if you don't use them, it's hard to visualize it all. We never do it justice in our descriptions, but by having those things laid out, you can really watch the action and let the characters think about, how am I going to attempt to overcome this? And I love these things. A perfect example out of my recent campaign. One of the rogues sat down with the party, and he and the sorcerer thought about, the sorcerer's got all these alchemist fire things. And so what he did is put them in a huge cauldron, gave it to the rogue to sneak up. And then when the rogue got right by the troll hiding in the tree, he swung it around so those things were going to break and smashed it against the troll, and it blew up. Oh, what happens with a fire and a troll? So my main baddie is screaming in the tree, trying to bat himself out. And then the rogue makes another sneak attempt beautifully. It's just perfect. It was like a natural 20. Snuck behind and shot him with 2 more arrows and killed him off because the fire would keep him from regenerating. Not even in the realm of what I thought they were going to do. But by gosh, one of the best story plots. I love how they took him down. I gave him kudos, props, told the party, thumbs up, guys. You guys kicked it on this thing. These guys were here to really stop you from going to the next leg of your adventure. And they absolutely just decimated it with a couple great ideas. And it wasn't the Clark Kent, Kal-El character of ours doing it. And he even gave props to the rogue for the big things he was doing. So that's the fun thing of the character and the attempt. If you write the right story, you write the right things, you put in the right goals and obstacles, you're going to have those beautiful, epic experiences that you're going to be talking about for years. And so remember that when you're GMing. I know some of you are going to be brand new to this, and you're going to try to make the attempt. And you know what? It's okay if it didn't turn out exactly like I described in here, because I've been doing this 30 years, okay? You got to understand, I've had plenty of time to learn and relearn. You got to start somewhere. So start with these basics and try them out and really work with it. Get you a couple adventure aids. Get you some miniatures or punch-out miniatures. Paizo has that. Other systems have them. Put them out with some scenery. Draw some scenery using erasable marker on the maps so you can really do the cool things with them. And just let the characters write the story. You're going to put the plot lines. You're going to put in the parts of the story that begin the characters thinking. They're the ones that are truly going to write it. And with your help, they're going to write some amazing stories. So that's it for this morning. This is the GM's tips on mechanics of designing a great campaign. I hope these things will help you going forward. Squeegee, again, thumbs up to you guys in the bunch there. You do some great stuff. Go see him out there. In fact, subscribe to Evil Squeegee out on Twitch and Twitch TV, and go see them in their misadventures and adventures. Also add the Carpe DM and Sarah P, and it's SARAHPEA, and Tech Yumi. It's TEKYUMI, and I believe she puts a little underscore between it. And watch them in their misadventures. Go out there and watch some of these things for Roll20 and really get some great ideas from them. I know I love watching these shows. Go watch Critical Role. Go watch Will Wheaton's stuff as he puts it out there on Twitch TV. Keep Geek and Sundry supported and really support the great things they're doing. And let's keep having some great role playing. Thanks, guys.